Hey folks, welcome back to the Leeds Gamer. Just thought I'd do a little video based on the fact that Leeds United aren't currently playing games, and it's because of the international break. And it got me thinking, how many international breaks are there actually in a season? Well, according to this, there's only 4. But my god, they seem to drag on. And does anyone actually enjoy the international breaks? That's what we're going to get into in this video. So just before I get into the main detail here, I've come up with the idea of having a Leeds United podcast on the channel, and so if any of you who watch are a Leeds United fan, and if you have access to a webcam or a phone that has a camera on it that would allow you to join the podcast, then do please let me know, and we'll get something sorted. You've got to be someone who watches the games regularly, either at home or at the stadium or in a pub, wherever you watch them. But effectively, you've got to watch Leeds on a regular basis, because otherwise it'd be very difficult to actually talk about Leeds if you don't really know what's going on about them, even though you may well be a Leeds fan, but if you're not really keeping tabs with it, then it makes it quite difficult. But I'll be looking to do the podcast on a weekly basis, and each recording would probably be for up to a maximum of about an hour, minimum half an hour. So between 30 and 60 minutes I think would be a comfortable amount of time. I've put a message on the community tab on the channel, so you can either reply to me on that, or you can put a comment under this video or any of the future videos that I do. Do please let me know, and we'll get in contact and we'll set something up. So it should be good fun. We'll talk about anything and everything that's going on about Leeds United. You literally could have your own channel already, or you might just be a fan that watches Leeds United content creators. Don't matter to me. As I said, the only criteria, as I mentioned, is if you have something to be able to join the podcast in terms of a device, and that you're a Leeds fan that watches the team on a regular basis. So, just finally, before we get into the main content of the video, do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm aiming to get to 1,000 by the end of the calendar year. We're about 207 now, so there's quite a way to go, but if you can't be ambitious, then what can you be? So do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do please like and hype the video if it gives you the option, and also do please hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future content. So, with all that being said, back to the reason for the video. So, international breaks. I find them incredibly boring. I don't watch a lot of international football. Usually it just involves players that play for clubs that I don't like, or they're just fixtures that really just don't mean anything to me, really. I'll watch the occasional highlight video, but that's about it. And the only reason that I watch the occasional highlight video is just to get a look at certain players, and come up with ideas of players that would possibly look quite good if they were to join Leeds United. I get annoyed with them because they break up the season on 4 occasions. You get 3 in quick succession, quite early on in the season. Then there's a bit of a break, and then you get one that's so close towards the end of the season, and it's the timing is so bad. When you've got them happening, you can see there September, October, November. You've got them happening consecutive months, for 3 of the early months of the season. So it's very difficult to gain momentum early on. And then the biggest fear with that one in March is that, you know, if you lose key players to injury, well, not suspension because I think that's separate, but if you lose a key player or key players that are part of your squad and you lose them to injury in that final international break, then the problem that you've got then is that you've got no opportunity to replace these players because you're way beyond the transfer windows, and you could go from being top of a league to mid-table, or you could go from being mid-table to in relegation zone. I mean, that's maybe a bit extreme on both accounts, but the point being is that, like, I mean, if we take Leeds into account, right? Leeds United have quite a few international players, and there's been a handful of them involved in this most recent break. Now, if Leeds get any of those players injured, or if any of those players come back to Leeds injured, then, you know, we then have to be really cautious about who plays in the upcoming games. I mean, I've heard that Arsenal have literally recalled about a dozen players, and this is a team that's top of the league, and relatively comfortably as well. They've got quite a gap at the top of the league. So, how the hell are they allowed to recall their players? You know, just so that it protects their own. You know, and there's a key thing in that bottom international break there. World Cup qualifying playoffs / friendlies. Why friendlies at that stage of the season? That to me is criminal. Absolutely criminal. You can't have your players playing international friendlies this close to the end of the season. It's a crucial time in the season. Again, as I mentioned with Leeds, you know, we're only a small number of points above the relegation zone. We can't be having our international players playing in friendlies. It's pointless. The only slight advantage, maybe, is that for any of the Leeds players that aren't getting into the first 11 on a regular basis, it gives them an extra game to get some minutes in the legs. So from a Leeds point of view, that would be players like Dan James or Willy Gnonto if he got called up for Italy. Trying to think who else is kind of a fringe player. Aotanaka for Japan. You know, these kind of players that aren't getting regular game time at the moment. You know, I guess it's a positive that they get a few extra minutes in the legs, so that if they do come on as a substitute, for example, that they're going to be in reasonable shape. But what if they get injured? What if they get injured in these matches and then they are unavailable for the final running of the season? That crucial time when teams need their players fit and available. Okafor going to Switzerland, for example, that's another example. Maybe Gruev to Bulgaria. You know, just certain players who aren't always in the starting 11. And then on an even worse point of view, if you get some key players, maybe Ampadu and Rodon for Wales, Biol for Slovenia, trying to think of who else, you know, DCL for England, Stack for Germany. You know, we really can't afford to lose these key players. So, I absolutely hate the structure of international football. I think it's crap. It disrupts the season. You should be able to be in a position where you can organise it, where the Premier League season starts from a particular date and you play literally once a week, every weekend, and you do that for 38 weeks of the year with no break. And then when it comes to cup matches, you put those in the weekdays, evening kickoffs for the League Cup and the FA Cup. A bit difficult for those teams that are in Europe, but you rearrange around that. But that for me, you've got 52 weeks in a year, so you've got, if you did literally for 38 weeks one league game a week, and then you got 14 weeks in the middle, you can do all your international crap then. Simple. Doesn't disrupt the league, and everyone's happy. Players then can be called up. It doesn't disrupt the summer transfer window or the pre-season. I don't know. That's my take on it, folks. But yeah, do please leave your thoughts in the comments below about international breaks. Would you scrap them and just somehow have it where the Premier League season runs straight through, one game every week for 38 weeks, and then you've got your 14 weeks in between to deal with that? I hope I've got the maths right on all that. I'm possibly autistic and ADHD, so I don't know whether those kind of things affected or if I'm just crap at maths. Could be a combination of both. I've always wondered if I'm dyslexic as well, to be honest, and that would affect it. But either way, I digress. So yeah, so effectively, 38 weeks all the way through, and then a chunk of weeks for you to get your pre-seasons in, for players to have an holiday, and staff for that matter, managers, coaches, physios, whatever, tea ladies, dinner ladies, whatever, cleaners, and just do it that way. To me, it would just make a lot more sense. This current structure doesn't work, and I don't know of anyone that actually likes this particular time of year, or how broken up it is at the start of the season. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish, and something needs to change. But I don't see it changing anytime soon. You would literally have to get maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans appealing against it. Maybe then the powers that be would listen. But you won't get it with just a few hundred people moaning about it. That's for sure. But I'll leave it there, folks. Big thank you for watching. As mentioned, if you're interested in joining me to create a Leeds United podcast on the channel, please let me know. I'll keep that message up there until we get it sorted, and do please hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do please like and help the video if it'll let you do it. But in the meantime, have a good one. See you next time. Bye for now.